One of the top traits that men say makes a woman sexy is confidence. Well, what does that mean? That's what we're going to talk about on this episode of One-Derful Life. Hi, I'm Mary Dittman. I'm an award-winning business professor on the collegiate level and the creator of College on Fleek and One-Derful Life. One-Derful Life is my way of describing how it feels when you've made peace with being single. There are plenty of women out there who prefer to be single. I am not one of them. I've always wanted to be married and have a family, but I'm well over 40 and that hasn't happened for me. And for a long time, that was really a source of sadness because a big part of my definition of a fulfilled life is being a wife and a mother. But I got to the point where I said, look, I just want to be happy. And being single doesn't seem to be changing for me. And so I just need to figure out how to be happy regardless of my marital status. One-Derful Life isn't about giving up or resigning or saying, well, I guess I'm just going to be single forever. Might as well make the best of it. That's not what One-Derful Life is about. One-Derful Life is about getting to a place of peace and contentment so that if your Mr. Right shows up, then he's attracted to you because you're happy. And if he never shows up, you're okay because you're happy anyway. When men are surveyed about what makes a woman sexy, the top traits are almost never physical. They are usually related to the woman's character, and one of the top rated traits that makes a woman sexy is almost always confidence. And that's a little bit tough because if you're single and you're over 40, sometimes it can be hard to be confident. I was listening to a podcast recently, and the interviewer was interviewing different women who are in different stages of perimenopause or menopause. So these were women in their 40s and 50s. And one thing that they were all struggling with was a real lack of confidence because their bodies are changing, they don't feel like they used to feel, they don't look how they used to look, and it can really be hard to feel confident. And especially if you're like me and you've never been married. One of my girlfriends told me one time, she said, well, I would prefer that my daughter be divorced than never married because at least if she was divorced, somebody picked her. Ouch. So sometimes if you're like me and you've never been married, you might start to think, well, gosh, what's wrong with me? And it can put a dent in your confidence. But this is not unique to single women or women. Everybody struggles with confidence. My college students, this is one of the big things that they struggle with. And even when I'm asked to come speak to professional women's groups, one of the top requests I get is to speak on the subject of confidence. All right, so what is confidence? The Merriam-Webster dictionary defines confidence as full of conviction, certain, having or showing assurance and self-reliance. And I really like that definition because the definition of confidence isn't saying you feel secure because things are the way that you want them to be, or you feel good about yourself because other people like you, or you feel like you're worthy because you got the promotion or the man. The dictionary definition is really saying that you're assured and self-reliant, meaning you know you got it. And as I just said, I know everybody struggles with confidence, but I'm talking to you. My audience is primarily single women over 40, so I'm just going to stay in that lane. But it can be really difficult to feel like you've got it when, your body's changing, things maybe aren't the way you wanted them to be, things didn't work out how you planned them to, and it's very easy to start to wonder, what's wrong with me? And I think we also are facing a challenge right now with social media. So whether it's Facebook or Instagram, when people post these pictures and they look like amazing, it's easy for us to look at that and think, well, gosh, yeah, I'd be confident if I look like that too. But the funny thing is that a lot of times those pictures, people are using filters or lighting, or there's just plain good old Photoshop. I've had my friends ask me, how come you look so great on your videos? Well, I'm using like really great lighting. But it can be really hard to feel confident because if you're always measuring yourself against these images that you see in social media or TV or the movies or magazines or any type of news feed, then you're never gonna feel like you look the way that you think you should look, or you think those people feel confident. Look at how confident they appear in this photo, or they appear confident in this video. And you don't really know how they're feeling, but we assume that they must just really have their whole life together. I was working with a friend of mine a number of years ago, and we had worked together for a couple of years, and then she hired me to come in and do some consulting work for her. And she was a vice president at a Fortune 500 company. And we were in her office, and I was sitting across her desk, and she was talking to me about whatever the project was we were working on. And she was really in her zone, and she's very good at what she does. And so she was talking about this project, and she was really into it. And it's almost like I had this kind of out-of-body experience. And for a moment, I sort of tuned out what she was saying, and I just was looking at her. And now she had gone gray. She had put on a few pounds, like we all do as we get older. And she had her reading glasses like on a thing around her neck. And I noticed that as she laughed and she smiled, you know, like she has the lines around her eyes, and she doesn't do Botox and all that stuff, no judgment. But she just was so like in her wheelhouse and really enthusiastic. She was passionate, which by the way is another thing that men report as being sexy, is a woman who is passionate and not just sexually. She was really passionate about this project, and she just was so sexy. I was like, I can see why her husband married her. I mean, she was in her zone. She was on fire. Her enthusiasm was contagious. And by the way, she didn't get married for the first time until she was after 40. They're still together. This guy loves her. He's a good man, good high value man. He loves her, treats her really well. But I'm just telling you, it's not about you've got to have flawless skin and you have to have the perfect body. That stuff is not what makes you sexy. Yes, men are visually stimulated, so they do need to feel physically attracted to you, but a man over 40 who is emotionally mature, and I'd like to suggest that's the kind of guy that we're looking for, they know, listen, you might look good now, but we're all getting older and none of us looks the way we used to, and you may not look like this forever. And the truth is that if you are super, super gorgeous and your looks are all there, that's fine. That'll get him to be interested in you, but what will keep him is your character and what kind of a person you are on the inside. And as I said, I think a lot of us as single women feel like we are less confident because we don't have a man in our lives. And especially if you're not really dating or you don't have a boyfriend, then you might not have someone in your life who's telling you, wow, you're great, you're beautiful, you're fantastic. And it can be easy to think like, well, maybe I'm not all that great. And many of us at some point have said, well, if I'm so great, how come I'm single? But when I read that definition in the dictionary of confidence, it made me think, well, if confidence comes from being self-reliant, then single women actually should have an edge in the confidence sector because we don't have anyone else to count on. Like we have to count on ourselves. We have to be self-reliant. And so that can actually give you some of that confidence that men find attractive. I was talking to a girlfriend one time and just saying, well, I hope I'll be okay if I end up single. And she said, well, you're single now and you're okay. And that really helped me. I was like, yeah, I am okay. It's not my preferred place. I would prefer to be in a relationship, but yeah, I'm okay. I'm handling it. Now, again, I want more for my life than just okay and handling it, but I'm building a good life for myself, and it's not contingent on a husband who's around. I bought my own home by myself. I owned it for 18 years and then I sold it. I'm providing for my retirement. I have zero debt. I have good financial security. I've navigated health crises, emotional crises, career crises by myself. I've survived breakdowns and breakups, and I've had breakthroughs by myself. I've dealt with the death of my stepmom and a very close friend and lots of relationships that didn't work out. I've been betrayed, deceived, abused, harassed, stalked, lied to, and I'm okay. And maybe you struggle because you feel like, but I don't feel like I'm okay. But sometimes feelings can be misleading. Have you ever had a time where you're like, I just feel fat today, and you get on the scale and you're like, nope, same as yesterday, and I didn't feel fat yesterday, or I just feel like I don't look good today, or I feel like I'm not having a good hair day, and then you get 5 compliments. Well, sometimes your feelings will mislead you, and you can build your confidence by looking at what are some of the things that you have accomplished even though you are single, or what are some of the things that you've done on your own. So you have confidence if you have had to rely on yourself as a single woman. So when we say like, I'm just not confident, well, that's really not true. Maybe we're just not acknowledging the areas where we've been self-reliant. Now, we don't want to take self-reliance too far, because this is something that men also say is kind of a negative to them, which is that if a woman never needs them, then they feel like, well, why does she want me around? So you don't want to be so self-reliant that you're like, I don't need a man, because I need a man. You have had to develop some level of self-reliance if you're single. And ultimately, nobody else can really give you true confidence. If your confidence is based on your job title or your income or the fact that you have a husband or the zip code that you live in or the car that you drive, what happens if your husband leaves? What happens if your company shuts down and you lose that job and that income? What happens if the car gets totaled? What happens if you lose your home and you can't live there anymore? When your confidence is built on anything outside of yourself, it's not confidence, because it doesn't come from that self-reliance and that assurance of who you are on the inside. So if you want to be more confident, look at what you're doing in your life that works. Are you paying your bills in full and on time? Or maybe you say, well, I've got debt. Yeah, but do you have a plan to pay it down and get rid of it? Are you raising your kids? Do you have your own home? Are you holding down your job? Anything. If you're succeeding in any area of your life, then you really do have some confidence that you can draw on. And if you say, well, I really don't have anything in my life that I can feel good about, then you need to not be looking for a man. Okay? You got to get it together. Go back and watch the episode on getting your S2G. Because if you really don't have anything working in your life, you don't need to be trying to find a man and bring him into your mess. But having a wonderful life is really rooted and grounded in that certainty that you're okay, even if you don't have the relationship that you desire. And it's also very hard to feel confident if you're struggling with heartbreak. If that's something that you're dealing with right now, a broken heart, then you might want to get our ABCs of healing. If you go to bit.ly/ABCs of healing, we'll get that to you. It's a little video tutorial, and I take you step by step how to get through heartbreak. But we want to hear from you. What do you think? Do you struggle with feeling confident? Put that in the comments and let us know. Wonderful Life is a dialogue, not a monologue, and we want to hear from you. And you can always connect with us at wonderfullife.com. We post a new blog there every Friday. You may want to join our mailing list. And we have lots of cool merchandise for you if you want to check it out. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on Wonderful Life.